Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Salt and Light Songs. My name is Libby, and I'm here with Mark and Josh Toth. If you're new here, this is Salt and Light Stories. For the last year, we have been producing comic books about people that we think are salt and light in their different vocations, in an effort to inspire Gen Z through mediums that make sense to them. So, last year we worked on comics, and this year we have an exciting announcement. We are moving into music as we kind of kickstart that comic book and try to get it into a final copy. So we just believe that storytelling is really important to Gen Z and a way to communicate with them and the younger generations as well. So we're excited to do this, but we have a new member of our team today. Josh Toth is here. He's going to be helping us this year as we kind of figure out what it looks like to share music. So yeah, we're going to share a little bit about him.
And let me say, before Josh introduces himself, or I introduce Josh to you all with our long history and background together, we are actually in the same room. And so when we occasionally look to our side, forgive us, it's a temptation. It's going to be hard to fully resist. And this is our first time at trying Riverside. So we're experimenting together. If you ever listen to a podcast online to that very first episode, and you kind of like grince a little bit, because they're just getting started, that's us today. So don't grimace too much as you listen today as we try to get this pattern down. But we will be interviewing over the course of the next year, once a month, a different artist that we have asked to reflect on one of the stories that we produced last year. And for each of them, we'll explore their own backstory, how they got involved with music, why the influences they've had, their own view of the role of Christians in the arts as salt and light. And then we've asked them to reflect individually on one of the stories that we produced. So we're going to ask them to share that story, what resonated with them about that one Salt and Light story that we shared. Johnny Cash. Soon we'll do Larry Norman, but others who aren't music related, like Fred Rogers and my friend, not friend, but influence, Henry Nouwen. So we'll be doing those with the artists throughout the year, and we've asked each one of them if they can to play a song for us that is just inspired by that story. It's something maybe they've done already that they've written and produced, or a song that they are inspired to cover. So we'll explore that today with Josh. So Josh, welcome to the team here as we explore this new rhythm this year. And Josh, just as way of backstory, so Josh and his brother, Jonathan, grew up literally with my two boys, David and Jonathan. And the four of them are the same ages, the two kind of pairs. And you were homeschooled, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. David and I met at preschool. He stole my seat. You were supposed to pick a star on the carpet. And I was like, bro, that's my star. And then ever since then, we've been friends. So
there's this history. Yeah. And as a homeschooler, right, eventually you all had a lot of time to explore the passions or the interests that you were called to. So the wonderful thing about homeschooling is once you get that core work done, you've got some time to then pursue those interests that are a bit more kind of passions. When did music kind of come onto your radar as a particular passion?
I feel like the distinct moment when it was something I was drawn to was I was at this place called Cox Farms. It's like this farm amusement park. This sounds super homeschool, but you ride down slides on burlap sacks. We didn't do stuff like this all the time, but it's a place we went occasionally. But I had just started learning guitar lessons just because I had extra time, at a place I was taking classes. I was hanging out with some friends, with David and a few other guys, and I saw a stage, and there was a guitar cut out on the stage, and I was like, guys, we should start a band. That would be fun. But one of the guys had started playing drums, kind of. David played piano, and then I just in my head was like, well, we could put this together and make a band. And so since then, it's always been this idea of music is a chance to create. Like, it's from the get-go, it had always been for me an opportunity to make something and to be able to create something that can be shared, that can be finished and produced and presented to people. So that was kind of how it started.
And what were your music influences as a young teen, as you're beginning to explore this vocationally? You must have been listening to different artists, kind of getting a sense of your own style, your preferences. Like, what were the artists that kind of motivated you or kept you going into this potential vocation that you're in?
Yeah. Um, there were several artists. Switchfoot was a big band that I listened to a lot. Um, I think that was they were one of the first songs I bought on iTunes. Um, it was, and I think one of the first songs I learned was "Meant to Live." That riff just hits. Like, it was worth the time in my bedroom just grinding on that song. So, um, and then the 21 Pilots was a group that I was that was big into. I haven't followed them as much as they've continued, but early on, they just really kind of captured my imagination in how they would art expectations while still being there were things you'd expect and things you wouldn't, play with that in ways like they'd change tempos and kind of crazy bold, like, oh, I don't like, how do they think to do that kind of things. I've always been drawn to artists who made me think like, wow, that was awesome. Like, how could you possibly even come up with that idea? Like, where would that come from? Because it's such a crazy twist, or seems so unprecedented. So yeah.
Now, grew up in a Christian home, homeschooled, so you didn't list, the Amy Grants. That would be my generation, but your equivalents, right? Yeah, Reliant K, for example, or others. Did you listen to what would we call, Christian contemporary music as well as a family, or?
Yeah. So I was involved in youth group worship bands from the get-go. So David Crowder band, just absolute killer. So I grew up in a very Christian culture, a very Christian subculture, like pretty through and through, which was a blessing in a lot of ways. I think there were some things that presented challenges in that, but one of the, there were some blessings in, like, yeah. But anyway, so I didn't listen to a lot of music that wasn't by Christians. Like, it was kind of, my parents were pretty like, oh, like, it has to be created by Christians for a certain period of time in my life, which was interesting. And not something it was totally in love, but I think something that I have kind of learned to see how that maybe formed some things in my theology of art that I would have had to unlearn about, the capacity of humans in the image of God to create beautiful things, whether they know it's for the glory of God or not. There's just something about something that, beautiful creations and sharing from the human experience that can and does glorify God. And so that was so anyway, a lot of those early era, influences were like very like clearly these people are Christians. They like very vocally identify as Christians, and it's maybe likely that it's for a Christian context, which is a important space. But I've definitely, as I've developed as an artist and as a believer, and as I've kind of left that bubble, so to speak, as I've really been growing in that idea of, wow, like there's so much good that people create because of that common grace of God's, influence on us, and God's yeah.
Well, I'll let Libby explore that word unlearn in a few minutes, because I know that stuck in my mind when you said that, and kind of maybe as she explores with you what salt and light means to you, what it looks like. I want to just continue with your own backstory, your own history. So, growing up, Christian home, somewhat limited in terms of your music permissions, maybe, let's say, or at least, pushing a little bit out, Switchfoot, a little edgy, right? But, Twin Pilots, a little bit more edgy, maybe, a little bit, just kind of your,
Yeah, pushing the boundaries.
yeah. Of course, they drop their drawers during the Grammys. Oops. Uh, uh, we're laughing at all this, right? But I think you decided then to go to uh, college, Christopher Newport, in the Norfolk uh, area here in Virginia, in music. So that was your full-time degree,
Mhm.
and you picked jazz.
Yep.
Explain that. I mean, where did the jazz thing come in? Because that you mentioned Switchfoot, but jazz, like how did that become your interest and your focus?
Yeah, that was kind of interesting actually. So I auditioned. I really I truly was fairly ignorant about some of the roads that have been paved in the arts. I think I felt like I didn't have many actual specific pathways that I'd considered. So essentially, I studied I studied music kind of as like last second decision to go to school to study music, because my teacher was like, hey, maybe you could get scholarships. But I applied and I auditioned for a classical music performance because I was like, well, as college is going to teach classical, I really want to write music. I want to produce. I want to create, but no school is going to teach you that. So I'll just do this. But in my audition, the jazz professor was there, and we were talking. He was like, "Oh, like, what do you do outside of like this?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I'm learning classical, but really, I like playing in a band. Like, that's really the setting I like." And he asked me if I'd ever consider jazz, and I was like, "Nope, never thought about it. Never really listened to it. Like, truly almost 0% listening to jazz. The idea that I could pivot into um, this, just being able to learn about improvisation, really advanced harmony, advanced theory, um, playing in a context, accompanying people and really composing on the fly and thinking of ideas and training yourself to really be creative. I mean, jazz is like equipping yourself to create spontaneously. I felt was like such a valuable thing as a creator for the way I like to create. So that was really why. And so it was definitely drinking from the fire hose to go into Charlie Parker bebop in the first semester when I was like, I can kind of read music and I have no idea anything about jazz besides like commercials that would play it. So that was how I got there.